Yoshi Barrigas, welcome to the Between You and Me podcast and Jesus Wired.
We're laughing because of our inside joke before we were rolling. But yes, thank you for having me.
It is so lovely to meet you face to face, to chat about your latest movie, 47 Days with Jesus, and your career, your life, all of those things. Before I jump into those fun questions, I would love to know, in your own words, who is Yoshi Barrigas?
Oh, I'm not sure. I think that'll be like a deathbed situation, like when you're lying on your deathbed and you're like, oh, that's who I am. Oh, okay. But I mean, look, I'll tell you, as far as my sort of creative artist journey, I always had, they say we're made in his image, right? And so if we're naturally creators as well. And so I do believe that, storytelling is probably the most fundamental part of our DNA. And I think even though we're aware of how obsessed with stories we are, I still think that we take it for granted. I think that, when we were, like primates and Neanderthals, like we were just, hugging around fires and doing shadow stories, like using the fire to create shadows on rocks and tell stories. And so I just think we've been telling stories since the very beginning. And I think that we learn so much about life and our own psyches and our own lives through participating or watching stories unfold. And so for me, it's always been a part of who I am. I mean, like I never studied acting or anything like that, but I, as long as I can remember, camera in my hands, a camcorder, and I was, putting my very Portuguese grandmothers in like a franchise of movies that I called Portuguese Warfare, and I like created this whole like backstory where like, so I was always just like I would, take my non-creative friends and force them to be in my movies and stuff. And so I was been doing that since day one. So you can have the conversation of nature versus nurture there. But like, I think that's like a nature thing. Like, I don't know why, but I've always been fascinated by movies and by music and by storytelling. And when I graduated college, the one thing I did know is that I wasn't, designed to have like a desk job or like a 9 to 5. And so I got in my car and I drove to California and sort of just never looked back. And acting, I think, subconsciously looking back on it, way because I have aspirations in other fields as well, particularly directing and writing. But I felt like, without a proper education, I think acting was sort of my way into the business. So a bit of naivete on that part, but I'm happy I did it because it gave me a way in, and I quickly fell in love with the craft of acting, and I'm still madly in love with it, and just hope for that I'm blessed to have more opportunities to get in there and get in the ring, as I say, and learn because as an actor, like you can train as much as you want, but as far as I've been able to tell, you don't really learn until you're on set and you're actually in there doing your thing. And so it's a bit like a sport, actually, the way I look at it, like a boxer or something. Like you can spar and you can mimic the fight, but nothing replaces the actual fight. And so for me, I'm still very much learning, I just, hope for more opportunities to get in there and learn and get better at what I do.
Yeah, I love that. I also resonate with storytelling, which is probably why I became a journalist. So completely different from acting, obviously. But I love that. I totally relate to it.
Yeah, you're still telling human stories though,
Yeah, and you act them. But you're also, I'm excited to see down the line you directing and writing them too. That's exciting. That sounds great.
Yeah, I actually will be making, maybe I'm a little, I don't know how much I should talk about this yet, but I'm going to be making my directorial debut on the stage in the next like 6 or so months. So I'll be excited to share that with everyone once I have more information. But yeah.
I would love to know about 47 Days with Jesus. So this is your latest project that has just released or was about to release in time for Easter. I watched it last night. love the fact that you're not in the biblical story, but you're a father trying to like outlive it. And then they cut to the Jesus part of it and there's singing. And I went, oh my gosh, I didn't expect this. We have a musical Easter story. So tell me, how did you get involved with 47 Days with Jesus?
Yeah, it's definitely like a quirky, unique film. There's really nothing else like it out there right now. And I just love that they were taking like a different approach to telling the Easter story. They contacted me and pitched me on it. And, it's been years because of The Chosen since I've played like a regular, like modern day man. And so I was very much into the script and into the sort of ambiguity of sacrifice that surrounds my character Joseph. He's telling himself that he's making a selfless sacrifice. He's signed a deal with the NAFF, the National Association of Firefighters, that his dad used to work with. That kind of tells him that he's doing something in honor of his father. He's telling his wife that he's sacrificing family time because he's providing a future for them and providing a wealth that they can tap into to put their kids through college and stuff. But really, I think we learn in the film that there's a kernel of selfishness lodged into the base of his intentions. And so playing someone who's, towing that line between like, what is his actual intentions at the end of the day was intriguing to me. And it was a lot of fun to bring that to life. And yeah, just paired with the, uniqueness of remembering or hearing for the first time the Easter story, the last 47 days of Jesus on earth. For my character, it's not so obvious if he's ever really been a man of faith, but hearing his dad remind him and tell his kids story, it sort of starts to wake him up. Not to mention all the members of his family, constantly bickering at him like, hey, dude, you're like messing up right now. And you need to get it together. Otherwise, you're going to lose everything. And so, yeah, that was just, as an actor, that was just a really fun, sort of line to toe, as I said, of, a good man who's making an honest mistake, and can he find his way back to faith?
Yeah, which is why Joseph is so relatable, because he's all of us in some way.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. This is, okay, from my calculations, correct me if I'm wrong, this is the third time you have stepped into an acting role specifically around like the life, the story of Jesus, or the Easter story. Because I know that you did Chosen, the TBN special where you acted as Jesus, which was, very timely, because I've always was playing Jesus on The Chosen because you have the perfect hair for it. That is a compliment, just to be clear. But I would love to know, like, what is it that has drawn you, even initially, to these gospel stories, these Bible stories? Because it has taken you out of acting as a modern day man for quite a number of years.
Yeah, it definitely was not by design. If you were to ask me years ago if I would ever be in like the faith-based industry, I would have said probably not. But God had other plans for me, and I'm so blessed by it because I guess I can tell you, the sort of synchronicities that were occurring in my life at the time that I booked The Chosen. I was working as a carpenter at the time in Los Angeles. Yeah, and building wealthy people's kitchens and that kind of stuff. Excuse me. And, I stumbled upon these lectures about the psychological significance of the Bible. And so at that point, I really had never read the Bible. I was interested in religion, generally speaking, but definitely didn't consider myself a Christian by any sense. And these lectures kind of like allowed me to see that there's like deep hidden wisdom in these parables. And me being like a psychology major, like that was kind of how I wrapped my rational brain around things and kind of got interested in it. And so I started reading it for myself and really started like getting it a little bit. And then I had this sort of serendipitous moment. I climbed this mountain in Los Angeles called the Wisdom Tree. And you maybe have heard this story already, but
I haven't watched the behind the scenes Chosen videos, even though I have watched the show. So please enlighten me.
Okay, cool. Yeah. Well, this will be a good one for your podcast.
Yeah.
I was reading a book at the top of the mountain and just sort of minding my own business. And I heard all this commotion over to my left. And it was all these like, high octave female voices sort of freaking out. And so I looked over and they were all kind of surrounding someone. And I paid it no mind. I went back to my book, and then the dust kind of settled and like the voices went away. And all of a sudden I hear, "Hey man, what are you reading?" And I look over to my left, and it was Justin Bieber just standing there by himself.
Sorry, because it's Los Angeles. Of course that happened. Please keep going.
Yeah, no, yeah, it was really funny. And so he asked me what I was reading, and I invited him to come join me, and so he sat with me for some hours, and we talked about what we were going through in life, and we just get on really well. And I think he was just appreciative that I didn't want anything from him. I wasn't really, obviously I knew who he was, but I wasn't like a fanboy or anything like that. And I think he just felt like it was refreshing to speak with someone who just talked to him like another human being.
Mm-hmm.
And so he sort of stopped me mid-sentence and told me like, "Hey man, I'm really feeling in my spirit right now that I'm meant to like introduce you to my church." And I was like, "Well, look man, I currently have no interest in church whatsoever, but you're Justin Bieber, so I'm not going to say no. So let's do it." So long story short, I ended up going to his church, and they were very welcoming, and they weren't trying to anything like that. And it was really just focused on the parables of the New Testament and like sort of examining what they were about. And, I met a lot of good people there, and I just felt very, very welcomed. And so I spent, the next 6 months going to that church every Wednesday. And, so I was learning a lot about the Bible, and then, that audition came in shortly thereafter. And so it all felt very, meant to be, if you will. And I was just already kind of like queued up to like be motivated by something like that. And so I just put my everything into that audition. And then, I was just been blessed to have had the opportunity to be a part of The Chosen. And I learned so much about acting and being on set, and, what this craft is all about. And then of course, because of that led to TBN contacting me about playing Jesus. And I don't know if that as like its own piece, but hopefully one day they will. Yeah. But that was an incredible experience. It was just super high pressure. I only had like a week to learn like 40 pages of monologues, and
oh my gosh,
maybe I'm exaggerating. Maybe it was like 2 weeks to learn, but
still 2 weeks. Come on.
It was like, and then, the added weight of, playing Jesus, of course. And, and so, and also like they wanted us, it's TBN, they wanted like a specific type of Jesus too. So I wasn't really able to kind of like do my own thing with it, which is okay. It's to be expected in this business. But, that experience was just like, that taught me a lot. And then of course, now here we are in a third faith-based movie now. And, this one was a lot of fun, and we'll see where we go from here. If it's another faith-based movie or show, I'm up. We'll see.
I just wanted to say that if this industry, the faith-based industry, is a genre, if that's even a thing, what I do like is that you haven't typecast yourself into that role, which is so important, because as an actor, you are so much more than that. You do this really well. But that was actually one of the things I sort of had floating as a potential question about, like, do you feel typecast into this? Because you do this really well, but you were capable of so much more. I was even like reading about your back catalogue. This acting as a disciple, acting as Jesus, is relatively newish in your career, considering what you've done in the past decade.
Yeah, totally. I mean, yeah, I mean, I definitely would love an opportunity to, I think I'm yet to tap into like my specific skill set that I feel like I have to offer, like that's call it what you want, but it's one of the factors of acting is, you could go 15 years of doing acting and never really get an opportunity to play a character that is you would consider in your like unique wheelhouse.
Yeah.
It's just kind of part of the game we play, and it's by no means a complaint, but yeah, I still think I'm yet to have the opportunity to play something that shows my unique set of skills and my unique personality. I mean, we've tapped into it a bit in some of these roles, but yeah, I hope that I get the opportunity soon to play something wildly different from what we've seen, so I can kind of show my range.
Yeah, no, I love that. I was really curious, like knowing the theme of the film, like 47 Days with Jesus, you are essentially retelling your kids in the movie the Easter story, which is for me, I've grown up in like a Christian home, but now as I'm growing up, I'm like, how about crucifixion? That's fun. But even like how you navigate that in the film was really interesting to me. And I wanted to know, I actually threw out some options for friends to ask you questions as well. I wanted to know, have you felt any added pressure or weight in like retelling or portraying these like really sacred stories? People hold these so close. They have really specific ideas about what they are and how they should be told. Do you feel that pressure when you're in the middle of that like film, that set, being that character?
I have not, no, but that's because I'm an actor. If I was the one who was writing and directing these stories, then I think I would think about those types of things. But at the end of the day, it's not my project. It's not my story. I'm really in service to the project. So, really it wouldn't do me any good to think about stuff like that, because at the end of the day, I'm just, surrendering, the role and surrendering to what the vision is of the director. And so if I was to, one day make something, and I've thought about it, if I was to one day make, my chosen series or something like that, how to go about that, because, you could take the Scorsese route, which, is going to piss a lot of Christians off because he likes to, tell it from, a sort of non-religious perspective. You can take the chosen route where you're like, your a priori motive is to try to please the general viewpoint of Christians, whilst also, taking, at the end of the day, there's really like no information on the disciples in the Bible. So like,
yeah,
you make stuff up. And I think, they do a great job of sort of imagining what the story would look like if they were to tell more about these people and what they were like. And, like, for example, with Philip, when I played Philip, Dallas and I collaborated on what this archetype was. And, we kind of came up with this like hippie sort of, head of the frat kind of guy, which was really fun for me because, there's a younger version of me out there that was a hippie for sure, following my favorite band around the country and just being a dirty hippie. And so I could relate to that. And I think there's an element of my personality that sort of matches that. So, I think at the end of the day, like you're gonna upset some people if you're trying to tackle something as big as this. But all you can do is do your best and stay true to your vision and try to honor the source material.
Yeah. I'm going to ask a question. Let's see how it goes. And if you're like, let's not go there, please literally just say, you have done a bazillion press interviews about The Chosen, about TBN, and now about this. Do you feel pressure from evangelical media to portray yourself or share the story in a certain way? And I only ask this because, like, my job, predominantly, I speak to people in evangelical media, and like their paycheck comes from their art, which is then sold to people in churches and it's authentic, but they have to be so careful about what they share, because if they go too far or say the wrong thing, well, evangelical culture can be really fickle. So I was just really curious, if you want to answer this question, if you don't, it's okay. Have you felt pressure to present yourself in a certain way, knowing that your career in some capacity was dependent?
I don't know if I would say pressure, but I mean, there's definitely been some assumptions by some people as to what, my faith might be. And maybe there's been some, questions oriented towards me divulging, personal things about my faith. I personally don't really get like bothered by that kind of stuff. I've never really had the desire to go so personal in my public life about my faith. But I still like talking about religion and Christianity and scripture. I mean, I'm super fascinated by it, and I do have my own personal faith and connection to scripture. So yeah, I just, while also, guarding my own personal story, because at the end of the day, like unless I have a reason to like really share that, I don't see the utility in it. If I'm promoting a film and someone asks me a question, I'm glad to give the most honest answer I can give that I'm comfortable with, but I'm fine with it. I mean, it's to be expected in this industry, like I think some people are just excited and they want to, hear your personal testimony. And I'm fine with that. The only thing that maybe is a little tricky is some people they would be quick to judge and assume things the way you talk about your faith if you don't talk about it the same way they talk about it. I think some people might to sort of cast you out as not like a true believer or something like that. And so I'm careful with my speech, as careful as I can be, whilst also, being as honest as possible. But it's all gravy at the end of the day. I don't have any qualms with how anyone's handled my interviews.
Yeah. Sorry, I wasn't trying to set you up then, and I wasn't even thinking of specific interviews.
No,
I was just
it didn't
curious.
feel like a setup.
Good.
No, awesome. It's a good question. It's a good question, and maybe we'll do this again for my next project, and I'll want to dive deeper with you on it. Whatever
you want. That sounds great. Yeah. And the weird part for me is that I can go either way. So I can, and I don't turn on the Christian speak. It's authentic to me, but I've grown up and been in churches my whole life. So it's as easy as being like, great, yep, let's turn it on. Like I can say the words in the lingo, but after traveling stuff and meeting people who'd like been hurt by the church or gone through their own crises, learning like they don't communicate like that. For them, that's not authentic. And so it's going, okay, how do I connect with people in a way that, isn't super, like it's still spiritual, but not in the same Christian lingo? I don't know. And for me, like meeting people that are outside of my bubble has actually been really profound and been a huge part of my faith, because I sort of often find that I connect more or feel like I've got more in common with them than people in the church. Just trying to like then cross the bridge between, going, how do these things merge together? Because people are just people at the end of the day. So I really appreciated what you said.
It's a natural human tendency to let the mind and let rationality, slowly start to shape our belief systems. But I think, sometimes you just got to like keep things simple. Just look at the scripture. Like I think probably the most important thing is to like keep an open heart, as you, interact with people who have their own interpretations of what this scripture means. I think an open heart would be a safe place to start from. And so, everyone's on a different part of their journey in trying to understand this book, and so I don't like to judge, how one, Jonathan of the Chosen's a Catholic, right? And there's some people who would maybe look at that and be like, how could you be, why would you choose to be a Catholic if like the very first iteration of Christianity was Catholicism, which essentially was run by the Romans, who were like the enemies, right? So like you can look at it that way, right?
Yeah.
But then going like, oh, now I'm judging Jonathan, and so for me, I don't like to go into those spheres. I like to just like hear how someone has interpreted scripture, and at the end of the day, we're all trying to, get to the same thing, right? So
yeah, no, 100%. Yeah, big learning curve in my life. I very much relate, and I love that. I love the idea of having an open heart. Well, not just the idea, the living out, but you get it. Okay, I've got a few like popcorn questions for you that are hopefully maybe more fun. But before I get to them, I want to know more about your career, purely in the sense that I know you lived on Venice Beach for a while filming a documentary about like the unhoused population there, and that you're a musician. And a lot of our listeners love music. A lot of our interviews are musicians. So can you tell me, this is a very broad question, take it wherever you like. Tell me about that part of like your life. We know you from these Jesus shows, but there's a whole lot.
Yeah, I appreciate that. It's so funny you bring that up because the guy who I made that documentary with, who I made it about, literally, I'm gonna see tonight for the first time in like many, many years. He's like in Los Angeles, and he's shooting a documentary out here right now for Amazon Prime about some book he wrote, and so he's gone on to do big things. He's like a big ghost writer, and yeah, so it's so funny you bring that up because we're probably going to reminisce tonight about the old times. Yeah, again, like when I first moved out here, I started acting, but like I didn't really know what I was doing, but I still knew how to operate a camera, and I knew I wanted to tell stories, and this opportunity just sort of fell on my lap when Alex was introduced to me, and he told me he hitchhiked across the country from Maine to basically live on the streets of Venice to spread awareness about the homeless crisis, which at the time was sort of like hitting this like new, and so I just was like, hey, well, I'll go film you, and let's make this thing together, and so we did it, and that's kind of like the first quasi professional thing I've ever made, and yeah, it was daunting experience. I spent some nights on the street myself, and just met a lot of these people, and I learned so much about what that crisis really is about, and how some of these people like went to prison as a teenager for like marijuana, and now like can't get work, and like are just in like really bad situations. And yeah, that was a great learning experience and a very heartening story to tell. As far as the music goes, yeah, I'm actually in my little now. I got everything set up, and I just sort of like ventured into like producing music for the first time like 6 or 7 months ago, and still very much learning, but it's like been a lot of fun, like just making original music for the first time in my life. And I've played guitar for a long time, and I've been working on a song for a while now and I guess this is the first time I'll say this publicly, but I've been working on a song for a long time now that I want to dedicate to the fans of The Chosen. But I'm just not happy with it yet. I wrote the song when I first got hired for the job. I wrote the lyrics for it, and it's like been through like 10 very like different versions since then. So I haven't quite found it yet, but I don't want to prematurely release it. So eventually, I'll be happy to share that song with the world, and thank you to the fans for welcoming me into their family. But yeah, I love music. I grew up, like I said earlier, like being a hippie. I followed this band Fish around the country, and I've seen them like almost 50 times. And yeah, it's bad.
I don't
And
judge yet. Well, I've seen my favorite musician like 20 times, which pales in comparison to you. So I'm not judging.
yeah, well, the thing about Fish that I love is that they do improvised music. So like it's never the same show, you know. That's what gets fans coming back for more, is that unlike most artists like who are basically going to try to replicate their studio albums on the stage and sort of give you like a perfected performance, a jam band like Fish, their intention is to like rather than like perform at you, to like discover something and discover it with you, and like to take chances. And part of that agreement is that you might go to a show because they just can't find the magic, you know, like, but that's kind of like to be expected. Like, but then when you're there, when something magical does happen, it's like we're all kind of in it together and like witnessing this like special moment where these four musicians are not really dictating where the music goes, but are rather sort of allowing themselves to be like hollow flutes for God to play them through, and like something unique to happen. And so it's sort of like it's actually kind of like a religious experience sometimes.
Yeah. Music can be, so often.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. Is there any way that we can currently listen to your music in the world? Is that public anywhere?
No, I haven't. You know, I know I on my YouTube page, I did like a couple covers of Fish songs with Austin from The Chosen. So you can find that on my YouTube.
I'll just rip that. That's fine, because I normally play music between it. So I'll just rip it. That's fine.
Yeah. Play that if you want. Yeah, that's YoshiTube is my YouTube. But hopefully soon I'll be releasing like produced stuff, you know, that I've been working on.
Yeah. What advice would you give yourself before moving to LA if you could go back in time?
Probably to take it a little bit more seriously. I think I goofed off a lot. Well, the thing is, like, I was always like working a lot, you know, like you're trying to like, you're living paycheck to paycheck, you're working like any job you can get kind of thing. And then, you know, then you're just exhausted. And so it's a bit tricky, of course, but I think I could have gotten to where I'm at a bit quicker if I were to care about it more and take it more seriously, you know, laissez-faire about the whole thing initially. So I guess my advice would be, but then again, I say that and I'm like, yeah, but then you wouldn't be who you are, because like, you know, you were learning who you were and you were having all these life experiences, and yeah, you were having fun, but that was all part of you coming out of your shell. And, you know, and if you didn't come out of your shell, then you wouldn't be the performer you are now. So it's hard to like want to change anything, but I guess if I were to give myself some like succinct advice, you know what, this is a better one. It would be like, you're doing just fine. You know, like you're doing good and you're capable. All those instincts you have of you having like potential are real. And all this time you waste like convincing yourself this is a waste of time and that you don't have the potential you think you have, that was all like negative energy that was just hurting me for no reason. So I would go back and tell myself, get rid of that, and just like, yes, like don't let, like, yes, you got to tame your ego, but you also have to realize that there's a part of the ego that's like useful, and that's like the part you don't want to shut off. It's the part that's telling you that, you know, you are a talented person and that you have something to share. And like, it's a tricky thing with the ego, but I think I like was fighting so hard to like, you know, slay that dragon that I at one point, you know, kind of, you know, you convinced myself that I was chasing this dream for like superficial reasons, you know? So I think that's probably a relatable thing for people to hear, you know?
Yes. Yeah. Yes. Yes. Projecting. Yes, absolutely. Okay. Two more really, really quick. You've played Philip and Jesus, and for lack of a better term, Joseph. if you could pick any other character in the Bible to play that would like be different or a challenge for you, not that you're trying to cast yourself in anything, but I would love to know, who would you pick?
It's a good question. I would probably pick either Judas or Pontius Pilate.
Those were the ones I wanted to talk about, because they would be, so fascinating. Yes.
Yeah, because that's kind of where I want things to go in my career. Like I like playing the good guys, but I have like I think it's more interesting to play people who are tortured with demons that they're wrestling with, that are, making them act in ways that are selfish and stuff like that. And I think those are the juicier roles. And so I think I'd have a lot of fun, playing, but, there's different renditions of him, but I've read this book that sort of painted him in this very unique way. And that kind of stuck with me. And him, like in the book, he had these like major migraines, and it's like this whole thing of like him knowing that this Jesus guy is like true, and like, but yet he has orders, and he's also like kind of resisting, becoming the better version of himself now that he's in Jesus's presence. And the migraines sort of represent this like inner battle he's having. And so like something like that would be a lot of fun for me.
Do you know what that book is called? Because it sounds really good.
Yeah, it's called The Master and Margarita. It's like a great Russian novel.
Okay, I'll have to look at it. It sounds really fun in a really interesting and thought-provoking way. Last question. What is your favorite musical album of all time? If you can't pick one, you may have three.
Gosh. I would say Fish, but Fish they're not like the studio albums don't really matter as much with them. So I'm going to go just off the top of my head, and this will change like every day, but I'm going to go Blonde by Frank Ocean.
Nice.
That album stuck with me when it first came out. I'll go Overgrown, I think it's called, by James Blake.
Mm-hmm. Lots
of modern stuff's coming out right now. And let me go with like a classic one. I'll go with the Jeff Buckley album with Hallelujah on it. I forget what that album's called. His only album.
I know what you mean. Yeah, good choices.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
That is have for you. Thank you. You've been really generous with your time. Is there anything I have missed or that you would like to include or say?
No. Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it, Jessica. It was lovely to chat with you, and hopefully we'll do it again soon.
Yeah, no, it sounds good.
And
I look forward to
all your listeners. I appreciate it.
Of course. No, thank you for making the time for this. I appreciate it. And I look forward to seeing what you do next.
Thank you so much. 47 Days with Jesus, March 11th in theaters. Get your tickets on fathomevents.com.
Done. Link in bio. Thank you. See ya.
Thanks, Jessica. Bye-bye.